everyone. Marcia here. For those who don't know me, my name is Marcia Chohfi Maluf. I'm from Brazil, and our ministry is called the House of Glory. And here I am in a pretty beautiful place. It's quite noisy, and I'm testing out my new equipment. It's not quite new, but some of it is pretty old. But you know, after all different kinds of cables came in, we were able to link my Rode to my Sony microphone, and now we're testing it out to see if it works. So while I do that, I figured I'd just give you all a shout out. Hey, hello. Here I am at the club. This is the Lebanese club. A club in Brazil is like a sports club. So and a Lebanese club at that is a club where there's all the structure for sports activities, like tennis courts, soccer, pool, and there's all the social stuff as well, with absolutely scrumptious Lebanese cuisine. The best in São Paulo, in my estimation. I'm suspect when it comes to this kind of subject because I've grown up eating this kind of food. So I compare every Middle Eastern food with what I have here. And I would challenge anyone from abroad, Lebanese, Syria, Israel, Turkey, you name it, to come here and actually try it out and tell me if I'm wrong, please. And so I figured since I mentioned I'm at the club, let me fix my blouse here. Okay, since I mentioned I'm at the club, I figured I'd walk around and show you the club because it is pretty beautiful. So we have lots of tennis courts here. And it seems like some rain might be coming in, and we have been having a lot of rain. Check out the sky. You see it's actually gray over there. It's kind of rainy over there. But don't get dizzy. Figured I'd walk a little bit around. I mentioned my equipment is old. Well, the microphones are new, but the iPhone is really old, and it gets really, really hot, like burning hot, and the batteries really don't last very long at all. So I'm in dire straits here when it comes to that and doing long videos. So lucky for you, I can't speak very long because it just won't record that long, right? Anyways, so what has been on my heart? What has been on my heart is, well, first of all, before I say what's on my heart, I have to tell you guys, my New Zealand friends, my Australian friends, my Canadian friends, American friends, European friends, yeah, I do have friends all over. I just don't have friends in Antarctica, because they're all penguins, and you know, they don't have social media there, so I can't talk to them. But anyways, I really miss traveling. For a moment there, I was quite okay not traveling. I have to tell you guys, oh, I can hear the thunder. So I was fine. It was just missing the ball. Just let the guys walk by. This is a soccer field that is being upgraded. So they're fixing, I guess, the drainage system, I would guess. So anyways, for a while there, we came back from Israel in February 2019. Was that it? Yes. No, 2020. 2020. And everything shut down in March. So we haven't gone anywhere for a while. There were quite a few places we couldn't go. Places that we wanted to go and that we couldn't go, but now I think we can go anywhere, considering we haven't taken the shot. But yeah, don't be scandalized by that, please. We all got a choice. But anyways, here's Batroon. This is our beach tennis thing and squash. Do we call it squash? The indoor tennis thing that you hit against the wall, that thing. So anyways, now I'm really wishing I could travel again. I'm starting to get in the mood and starting to miss packing a bag, being in an airplane. I know some people hate those things. I actually really enjoy them. I don't know why. guessing it's because there's this little button in me that was created by God and that just moves me to travel. I'm not sure how to explain that. Anyways. So, oh, this is where the beach tennis thing is. Take a look at that. It's quite cool, huh? That's sand. Pretty neat. You can tell I don't come this way very often. I know there's another soccer place down here somewhere. These are gyms. You don't have to see gyms. Anyways, I don't know what this is. A tennis practicing wall? What is that? It looks like it might be a tennis court for practicing. Anyways, I can see that I'm soon going to have to end this video because I can only record 15 minutes on this app I'm using, which is good for you again because you don't have to be bored with my chatter. And I still want to make another video telling you what I've been pondering on these days, if you ever want to know. Not that you're asking. Oh, look, cool, there are kids here. It is Carnival holiday now, for those of you who don't know. So there's a lot of people traveling, which is why there's very few people at the club right now. But still, I'll end this video just showing you guys kids playing soccer back here. Anyways, I'm back to where I started, and let's wait for this, see if it will focus back there. I wanted to show you the pool. Let's see if I touch the screen, does it? Ooh, there it is. Again. There it is. But everyone's left, except for one guy who's swimming there, because it really is coming down. I don't know if you can hear the thunder. The sky is, ooh, here it comes. It's already raining. So let's get going because this iPhone is not waterproof yet. My next one will be. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the walk. What has been on my mind lately has been, well, always eschatology, always thinking about what's about to happen and where the world's heading, nations, all these floods. Here in Sao Paulo we had the floods. In Turkey they had the terrible earthquake. There's a lot of loss of life. This is just converging. When we come to the signs of the times, you think of convergence, intensification of signs. You think of acceleration. So we've always had earthquakes, we've always had tsunamis, we've always had floods, we've always had all of this stuff. But as we near the end time, as we near the tribulation week, let's say the 70th week of Daniel, what happens, or the second coming of Christ, what happens is there's an acceleration, an intensification, a more, everything will be more intense, and a convergence of signs. So signs are, for example, earthquakes. A sign of the end is that there's going to be a lot of earthquakes in many places. But we've had earthquakes forever, right? Yeah. But once they start happening together in several different nations, and the world is overwhelmed with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 point something earthquakes, with whole cities destroyed, that's when, we're getting close to the end. This isn't to scare anyone. This is just to say, it'll happen. Prepare. How do you prepare? Well, first of all, it would be good if you knew Jesus, because securing your eternity is the most important thing you can do, really. Other than that, he will tell you how to prepare and what to do. But so that's on my mind a lot because I teach on that, and if you didn't know that, oh well, I was going to let you know where to find those teachings, but there's very, very little, very few in English. Might have to do more, right? Would anyone out there be interested in hearing studies on the book of Revelation or eschatology in general? I know there's a ton of stuff out there. So I don't know if I'll get the time to do them in English. I'm really focused in doing them in Portuguese. You can look at my YouTube page and find them there if you speak Portuguese. But if I could recommend someone that I would trust to teach amazing amazing stuff on the book of Revelation and eschatology in general, I'd point you towards FAI, Frontier Alliance International, is it? They are pretty good. I would trust them with what they'll teach you about in regards to the book of Revelation and eschatology. So yeah, there was something else that was on my mind. What was it again? I don't even know what's on my mind these days. Anyways, I'm going to send this one because I think my signal is very, it's not enough to send anything long. So, going to walk into, just going to show you this place here. This is one of the places where we can do parties here, and they serve lunch and dinner in certain days. It's pretty beautiful, isn't it? You could have a wedding here. I like it here very much. It's like an oasis. We are really near to a big avenue here in São Paulo. I live on this avenue, actually, just up the road. We're down the road, that way you see it. And you see it's really busy. It's not too busy today. Actually, there's no one there. Hello, Avenue? Where are the cars? Because of Carnival, because there's a lot of people traveling. But usually it's really, really busy. And there's another park across the road, across the street, where you can see there's kids riding their bikes. They have those thingy-majigs for skateboarders and bikers and or bicycles. Okay, so now we are indoors, as you can see. I finally found a place with decent lighting. It is pouring out there. I won't even try showing you because I don't think you'll be able to see it on camera. But I love the rain. Don't you love the rain? It's just absolutely glorious. I just think how, the Lord loves just to pour out his rain on us. And when I look at this, I think, wow, Lord, rain on this land with your love, with your grace, with your power, with your beauty, with living waters, with waters of refreshing. In Jesus' name, amen. So I was going to tell you what was on my mind as I was on my walk. I was quite distracted. But I've been thinking about the revival. I think everyone has been talking about it. Everyone has been thinking about it. Well, at least I have. If you haven't. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about the Asbury revival. In Kentucky, is it? I think so. So I've listened to a lot of reports, and I have to say, some people just miss the opportunity to shut up. There's a lot of criticism out there, and you know how a person who doesn't speak in tongues will criticize those who do? Go figure. People who have never experienced healing will say it's not for today. We do have a tendency to analyze things through our glasses, our worldview, our kingdom view. We really have a hard time accepting things that are different, that are out of the norm. And this leads me to Acts 2. In Acts 2, the disciples are in the upper room. It's crazy in there. I mean, the Holy Spirit comes with his mighty, powerful, glorious wind and fire, and everyone is speaking in different tongues or languages or whatever you want to call it. It's so spectacular and supernatural and weird, off the charts, that people think they're drunk. What makes you think revival will ever look like anything normal? It doesn't. It looks like people repenting, people, throwing out their pot or whatever stuff, getting rid of their vices and their addictions. It looks like people running to Jesus. It looks like people maybe rolling on the floor. It looks like people repenting in tears. It is very emotional. You can't describe it any other way other than it's supernatural and out of the norm. So, I just feel that some people just need to go there and sit there for a while. And instead of sitting there to observe and criticize. Just sit there to be with Jesus. That's what I would say. Anyways, so I'm excited about what's happening there. I don't know how long it'll last. No one knows. There's revival that goes for 24 hours, and there's revival that goes for 6 days, and there's revival that goes for months, and maybe there's revival that goes for years. I would not want to stand in the way of something God is doing. And if He's not doing it, then let Him deal with it. I think, sometimes we, as believers, we do not understand the spiritual dimensions. And last Saturday, I taught a seminar on the Book of Revelation. Well, it wasn't on the Book of Revelation. I called it Eschatological Panorama, because it was a bird's eye view. It was a panoramic view, And the theme we were dealing with was the schools of interpretation of Revelation. So we dealt with the preterist school, the historical school, the historicist, the idealist, and the futurist. I just gave my class an overview of what was taught through the lens of those schools in regards to eschatological interpretation and biblical interpretation, because it colors all of our interpretation. Everything, in Scripture gets colored by these lenses, and it does us some good to actually know they exist. But then we had a whole morning. This was like 3 hours. And the students were like, what? Why on earth would people think that Jesus has already come back? And it beats me, obviously. But I do know why. And it's very easy for us to try to correct an error and then swing all the way to the other side of the room and have a completely different error, sometimes that is bigger than the other error. Anyways, if you speak Portuguese, go check it out. It's on YouTube. It's called Panorama Escatológico 2. But the reason I'm talking about this is because, Jesus in Matthew or John or Luke or Mark, he will start, we see the Gospels in the way that you see what the people of the time were expecting, and then we see what the people of the time had to have as a shift of their mindset, a shift in their worldview. So Jesus, He is constantly teaching them in a way that realigns them so that they will understand His first coming and not miss the time of their visitation. In our day and age, I think God is doing the same thing. He's teaching us to go into this shift, into this realignment of our mindset, so that we don't miss the time of our visitation, that we don't miss being prepared because we're expecting something else. So some people are expecting to go through a lot of hardship, and so they're preparing their mind, soul, spirit, body, kitchen, whatever, closet. And some people are expecting nothing, because God would be really evil if He allowed us to go through any kind of hardship, and so we're preparing for nothing, which is ridiculous, because look at what's happening in Brazil's coastline. I mean, we've got people who are dead now, and hardships happen in everyone's life. There's earthquake everywhere. Look at Turkey. This comes, the rain falls over the good and the bad. It's common, it's normal, it's been happening throughout Scripture. Why on earth would we not prepare for hard times if the Bible says there will be hard times? We have had hard times forever and ever and ever, almost, amen. So we need to be a little more realistic in allowing the Lord to shift our mindset, to help us so that we will be the voice, His trumpet throughout the earth when shakings really come. And Hebrews says that everything that can be shaken will be shaken, Hebrews 12 something. The heavens will be shaken and the earth will be shaken. I hope I said that in the right proper tense in English. It kind of felt wrong, but hey. You guys know that English is actually my first and second language at the same time. It depends on which realm I'm in, but I did grow up in Brazil and my whole family speaks Portuguese. So I Portuguese at home and English in school and in my dreams and in my thoughts and in every book I read. So it's kind of strange. There's one friend that I, Sharon, my very best friend here of speaking English, who went to school with me. And when I'm with her, I'm very conscious of all of my English mistakes, and she's very gracious in not pointing any of them out unless I actually ask, did I say that right? And she's a linguist, so, she would know. She's very gracious. I love you, Shaz. So where was I going with this? These are the days and these are the times. We are definitely in the end times. I know we've been in the last days since the cross. That's a given. John said that. Hebrews says that. We know that. But we do have signs. Matthew 24, the disciples are walking around with Jesus. They're leaving the temple area. They're heading towards the Mount of Olives. And the disciples, they are in awe of this temple structure. Herod's temple was really beautiful and big and great. He was quite a megalomaniac when it came to building, which is good because now we have all of that archaeological evidence of a lot of stuff because he was that thorough and good as a builder. So they point out to Jesus, wow, look at this, Jesus, isn't this just spectacular? And he says, there will not be left a stone on top of the other. It's all going to come down at some point. It'll all be destroyed. And they're like, okay, I think it's time for a chat, Jesus. What are the signs of these things and of the end of the age, the consummation of the age and of your coming? Which is kind of interesting, isn't it? Jesus is right there with them. He hasn't died yet. They don't even understand at this point that he has to die. And they're asking, what are the signs of your coming? Ever stopped to think about that? You should ponder that. This is an very interesting topic. So anyways, they head to the Mount of Olives and he starts giving us signs. And there's going to be signs in the heavens and the earth. There's going to be signs of earthquakes, of wars, and rumors of wars. But it's not quite there. There's the beginning of birth pangs. There's birth pangs. There's labor pangs. There's the actual coming of the Son of Man. And he gives us these signs, and he tells us, he gives us the comparison of birth pangs. Why? Because this comes in waves. A woman in labor, and I wouldn't know, but I have researched it, but a woman in labor will have first one pain of a sign, okay, the process is beginning. This can last 2 days, it can last 1 day, it can last a few hours, So she waits for the next birth pang. So you have the first, you have the next, and then the next one will be a little bit more intense, and it'll be shorter than the previous one. So you have an acceleration, and the next one is closer, and then closer, and then closer, and then you have an intensification as well. It becomes the next one is more intense, the next one is more intense than the last, the next one is more intense than the last. And in terms of signs, we also have a convergence. So you have an acceleration of the signs, you have an intensification of the signs, and then you have a convergence of the signs. So maybe you'll have an earthquake, then a tsunami, let's say Indonesia, then let's say Japan, then let's say, and I don't remember the years, okay? So I apologize, I'm kind of on the fly here. We have Turkey now, and I probably missed a bunch in between. We've had, and these things aren't cyclical or cyclical, but hurricanes are. So, you're in the States, you have hurricanes. I wouldn't count those as signs of the end times because they are patterns that happen annually and in certain months. So we know they're coming. Earthquakes are a little bit different. And if you enjoy studying earthquakes, I would direct you to Dutch Sins. I think he's onto something. I've watched a lot of his videos. I've watched for a few years now, and I think he's onto something that the scientific community is just in denial of. But anyways, that's my opinion. So if you're interested in that, and if you live in an earthquake-prone area, you might want to watch out because he can actually forecast them. And I believe him. So maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Who cares, right? So anyways, so we have things that happen annually, but then we start having tragedies that are coming closer together in terms of the next one. And then we have greater intensities happening. But what really classifies these as end times events is when we have different signs coming together at the same time. So when we have tsunamis and wars and earthquakes and signs in the heavens and unrest, civic unrest in nations, when we have hunger, when we have poverty, when we have, because these things we've had forever. But when we start having them closer together, more intense, and at the same time in different places, all around the globe, then wait, maybe the time has come. Maybe this is the beginning of birth pangs. And so what should we be watching for? And of course, we're not just watching for calamities in nature and one war or two wars. I mean, Africa has been in war forever and ever. There's always been war. The Middle East has tons of wars all the time. There's child pornography and trafficking and things like that everywhere all the time. But there has been an intensification and an acceleration and a convergence. It is coming. So what else are we watching for? What are the things that we need to watch for beyond earthquakes and things like that? Calamities. Well, there are wars. And we were talking about wars. Some nations have been in war forever. But there's specific wars that we need to be watching for. And I just wanted to remind everyone that when we talk about eschatology and birth pangs, the coming of Jesus, we have a sender, a place where things are centered in. For the first coming of the Lord, there had to be a place called Israel in the geopolitics of the nations. There needed to be a place called Israel with the Jewish people in there, living there, governing there. There needed to be a Jerusalem as its capital, and there needed to be a temple. This same scenario, almost the same scenario, is necessary for the second coming, as per Bible prophecy. Okay, so for 2,000 years, none of this could come to pass. None of this would happen. We shouldn't even expect it because the scenario wasn't ready. What is the scenario? Israel needs to be a geopolitical entity, a state, a nation. It needs to have a head of state. It needs to have a leader, a president. It needs to have Jerusalem as its capital. The Jewish people need to be living there, and eventually there needs to be a temple. But for all of this to come, so for 2,000 years we didn't have that. Since 1948 we do have Israel as a state. Since 1967 we do have Jerusalem as its capital. Now we are missing one thing from this scenario, and this one thing may come when the trigger for the tribulation week, the 70th week of Daniel, comes into to play, which would be the signing or the strengthening of a covenant with many, according to Daniel 9:27, for 7 years. Okay, so these are things that need to happen before we get into the end of the end of the end of the age, which is the last 7 years of the age, the thing we call the tribulational week. If you're not familiar with Bible prophecy at all, that's fine. Just know that where do Christians get this thing that there's going to be 7 years of tribulation? It's from Daniel 9:27, where the Antichrist, a world leader, a leader, will strengthen a covenant with many for 7 years. Okay, so that is Bible prophecy. That's why we're expecting it to happen at some point. But the trigger for this week is this pact, this covenant, this thing that is signed for 7 weeks, 7 years. As well as that, we also have a few wars that need to happen because the Antichrist comes from these wars. So we have the war of not Gog-Magog yet. In the description of the Gog-Magog war, we have the fact that Israel is established in the end times. So for this war to happen, yes, Israel needs to be again, an entity that has a president or Jerusalem as its capital, etc., etc. Now there are other wars. For example, Persia, i.e. now modern day Iran, is really important to Bible prophecy. Whatever Iran is doing, we need to be on, watching, because there will be a war between Iran and an entity from the West. Iran will start to, maybe send missiles. We know that they've already got their 90% uranium enriched, and they're going to use it. Some dogs only bark. This dog doesn't only bark. This dog will attack. It will send its missiles somewhere, and it has two goals right now, and it's out there in the media for everyone to see. If you wanted to go look at if you speak Arabic, and if you wanted to go look at their advances and threats, you just need to go into their imam something. I just went in there today, .org. It's there where they show their army equipment, they show their even underground bases. Why on earth would you show anyone your underground bases? Usually it's because you're warning them, because you're actually not barking. It could be that, it could be the opposite. But I wouldn't doubt it, because Hitler did a lot of barking and then he bit big time. So I don't think we should ignore that. I think Stalin did a lot of barking too, and then he came and bit a lot of people. You know what I'm talking in analogy here. So Iran is it's in Bible prophecy. It'll probably happen. We're just not sure exactly when, but I think the time is coming. And they will probably fulfill their threats. They will act on them. So we have Iran, who's going to start maybe launching, and then we have an entity in the West that will come against them and will destroy them. And that will start a process of a number of wars between this same entity and something to the south. And this entity is to the north of Israel and will crisscross Israel, fighting someone in the south. From these two wars, this war of Daniel 8, of the sheep and the goat. Some people think this is in the past, but the Antichrist comes from the entity that destroys Persia, that destroys the goat, that destroys the sheep. So you can't discard completely this being something of a modern age thing, because the Antichrist comes from this Western entity. And then there's another war in Daniel 11 where the same Western entity is the king of the north that will fight a king of the south. And from this victory of the king of the north, he will also destroy or dismantle the king of the south. This is the Antichrist, and he will come eventually to Israel. And he will, I don't know if this covenant that is strengthened by the Antichrist for 7 years is a result of these wars, or if the covenant will result in these wars, because I can't even see it happening right now. I can't fathom, I know my lighting is terrible, I can't fathom it happening right now. It doesn't seem to be possible. But listen, guys, we had COVID, and in 2 years, everything stopped. I mean, in 2 months, everything stopped. Life changed completely. We could never have expected such a thing in the past. Never, ever. It didn't seem possible, yet it happened. And then, 2 months before COVID, they had a, It was event 201. You should watch it. It's pretty interesting. They had a simulation. That's the word I was looking for. They had a simulation of a SARS-CoV pandemic, and only 2 months before, and it happened exactly as they had simulated. And we've already had another simulation of this kind of event for a cyber attack that paralyzes nations or paralyzes the economy and the financial system. So, if you think you've heard something about it, you might want to pray about it or do something about, I don't know what you call it, I know, buy gold, I would say buy gold. I'm not liking this light at all. But anyways, let's see if I can get any worse or any better by coming up here. Is this a little bit better? All I see is my nose. Who cares, right? You're not even interested in my lighting, probably. So anyways, I should be coming to the end of this thing anyways. Let's use the stick for something useful. Let's see if that makes it better. Maybe no. Anyways, so we're expecting these wars, and we should keep an eye out on Iran. We should keep an eye out on Turkey. Now, we don't know what will happen with Turkey after this earthquake. I don't know if you know, there is a rabbinical prophecy. When I say rabbinical, it's 18th or 17th century. It's a rabbi, a Jewish rabbi, traditional rabbi. He prophesied that when the Russians took Crimea, that the Messiah was kind of, soon to come. And when the Russians invaded Constantinople, which is, I just spoke of it this morning with someone and now I forget the name. What's Constantinople in the present time? Someone just type it in there. I know I'm not live, but anyways, someone just help me out here. When Constantinople would be invaded by the Russians, then Messiah was like at the door, knocking. I'm coming in, And I know many people don't believe in other prophecies. I think we need to look at even Islamic prophecies, and we studied that in one of our classes. Again, if you speak Portuguese, go check out Sinais do Apocalipse, one of our seminars. Sinais, we have 4 of them. In one of them, we teach on Islamic prophecy, rabbinical prophecy, Christian prophecy, modern day prophecy. Usually we're just using biblical prophecy, which is what we should use. But there are other things happening out there that kind of match up. We're always comparing everything to the Bible, of course, because that is our golden standard. It should be the only standard, but we have other things I think that we could analyze. So anyways, yeah, I think I've done enough rambling. What do you think? Enough rambling? Yeah. So just, be on the outlook. Know that Jesus is coming back, whether we like him or not, whether we agree with him or not. He is going to deal with sin, with iniquity, with transgression. He is going to bring his kids back home. He has created humanity for his glory. He has created us whole. And right now, we're not whole. We are God haters. We think we can create another human being out of nothing. We are trying to recreate the Big Bang because we believe that's how God, well, they do. They believe that's how God created the earth and the world, and what could go wrong? Stephen Hawking was quite against it. What could go wrong? Everything, right? We are now, into quantum physics, and we're measuring the supernatural realm, but we measure it and we are okay with it when it's to do with Hinduism and everything else, but not when it has to do with Christianity. Because this is a war on God. And whether you agree with me or not, just keep your eyes open. You will start seeing things that are biblical, in biblical proportions, and God is not evil. He will allow many of these things because he is good, and he will make sure humanity is straightened out from this sin and death problem. He's going to fix it. And I know this is just, on the fly here, and I know it's going to offend many people, but we do have to realize we are not bigger than God. The creation is not bigger than the Creator. And as much as the pot can be bigger than the potter, it can't. It doesn't work that way. And God is very gracious. He's incredibly good. His love does endure forever, and it's perfect love. It's not human love. And many times the problem we have is that we don't know how to understand His love. We measure His love according to our love. We measure His justice according to our justice. And our justice doesn't come anywhere near to perfect justice, because God is perfect love and perfect justice. So anyways, I love you guys. Thank you for, if you were brave enough to come all the way to the end of this rambling, I'm already a fan. You're my hero. So blessings from Brazil. I hope to see you again with something a little bit more structured, maybe a teaching. So let me know if you would like to hear my opinion on anything. Not that it's really important what I think, but if you would like to hear, I wouldn't mind rambling on camera. I would try to keep it to just my 15 minutes, which is what my app here gives me. My free app, to be, sure. All right, so I need to leave now. This is great lighting, and it's a nice place too, isn't it? Oh, anyways, so I don't want to be a prophet of doom and gloom or a teacher only of doom and gloom, and that's not what the book of Revelation or eschatology is about in the Bible. It's about righteousness, it's about God's goodness, it's about God's love, and it's also about God's glory coming back down to earth. And because of that glory, there's going to be a lot of shaking. And because of that glory, there will be revival. And so I would like to talk about that too. So anyways, I won't ramble for another 15 minutes because that's what my app gives me. I'm gonna go now. I think it stopped raining, and there's a good chance my batteries are gonna run out in just about at any moment. So I wanted to give you a formal goodbye, which is why I came back on. So love you guys. Blessings from Brazil again. And see you soon whenever I feel like I want to ramble again. Ciao.